quarter. You still have to be yeah, but I have 5 A minus. So I have 2 A pluses. 2 A pluses. I have an A. I have 2 A minuses, and then I have a B. What is A minus? There's no A. A is for amazing. B is for better.
All right, so looking at these notes now, I do have it labeled over here. It's kind of small, but this is Geo 9.3, but we're doing it in chapter 10. So online it'd be 9.3.
So what do we mark it at? On the
9. It's labeled on the sheet as 9.3. Okay, so this one is labeled correctly. The only one that's not labeled correctly is 10.0, which because I couldn't, because I didn't want to do that. Okay, so to graph a circle, circles have this really awesome equation, and that makes a circle.
Oh, this was in our homework in both of them.
I get to find the radius.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Is this a good tattoo?
I think it's cool. But I don't know that. Yeah, maybe. Biggest mistakes people make is that it's x minus h. So if the number for h is 5, then this would be x minus 5. Okay, if h is negative 5, then this would be x plus 5. So basically, you're going to switch the signs. The other big mistake I see is people forget that this is squared. That r is squared.
What did you say about the positive?
This is the equation of a circle. Equation of a circle. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why do you need an equation for the name of it?
This is just something you have to know. So let me show you how we write it. Okay, so go down to question this A. What is the equation? If you know the equation, it's really not that hard. If you don't know the equation, it's basically impossible. But so I'll show you. We need to know the center of the circle. The center of this circle is 3, 0. Okay, that's my center. I need to know the radius. I don't want to pick the radius, say, from here to here, even though they put a nice dot on there to think we need to do it. So we could do the distance formula there, but I can just go from here to here and see that it's 1, 2. Oh, it's not quite 3, is it?
No.
That's not very nice. Okay, so I guess we do have to do the distance formula. So we need to know this distance right here. The points we're using is the center, and it looks like 1, -2. Okay. Okay. So Pythagorean theorem. Make a right triangle that this here is 2, and this side here is 2.
Wouldn't it be a 45, 45, 90?
Yeah. So what is this?
It's that's a great question. 2 square root.
Well, let's not confuse yourselves. If this is easier for us.
32 equals 32.
8.
Oh, okay. I thought it said 4. Okay.
That's 8 squared, though.
It's 2 radical 2.
Oh, it went away. Sorry.
Yeah, it would be 2 radical 2.
Okay, and it ends up being 2 radical 2, but we're not going to change it, and I'll explain that in 5 seconds. Okay, so, and I don't like the fact that I use C here. This is not really my C. This is my, that's my radius. It'd probably be better to use R. Okay, so let me write this equation. It says x minus, it's x center.
What's X?
Somebody tell me, what's the x center?
The x value of the center.
Yeah, which is?
3.
So x minus 3 squared plus y minus 0 squared. How do I write y minus 0 squared? If you wrote it like this, you would not lose any points, but you could also write it as just y squared equals my radius squared. If I square this, it's what? It's 8.
But then you have two variables and you can't do anything, so it's pointless.
So this is the answer to this question.
Wait, that is so pointless to put.
That's annoying.
So don't argue with math. No.
I'll
let you-
So it makes sense.
I'll let you give me a hard time, but don't give math a hard time.
But math doesn't make sense. And math gives me a hard time.
Let's try another one. I really like the triangle method because that's so much easier than the distance formula in a way, even though that's the same thing. So I can make this triangle. It's a 1, 1, 2, 3.
It's just 1, 2, 3.
I need to know the I need to know the center of this circle, which is what? -3, -1. So 1 squared plus 3 squared equals, can I write r squared? Will you let me do that?
Isn't the radius just 3?
No.
No, it's not, because it doesn't go exactly there.
So 1 plus 9 equals r squared. So the radius equals the square root of 10. I hate that I do that.
It's,
So somebody tell me the equation of this circle.
X minus something squared.
X minus,
No, it's x plus 3.
X plus, but the thing says.
It's negative with a minus symbol.
-3.
Minus -3 is plus 3.
okay, you don't have to yell at her. She'll figure it out. Keep going.
Plus
Uh-huh.
y plus 1 squared, which equals 10.
Radical
10. 10.
It's not 10, it's
You
right.
square root the whole
No, it's
thing.
radical 10.
Square the whole thing.
So we square it. So radical 10 squared just equals 10.
10. So it's 10. Cool.
Now, if this was a nice radius, we'd have to just make sure. So if it was this 3, we'd have to make sure that we squared that 3. Okay? But that's the equation for the circle. I kind of think the formula is more confusing than just kind of knowing it. The x is with the x, the y is with the y, square the radius.
Like a distance formula.
It is a lot like the distance formula.
I can't see
You guys are going to love these ones.
Put this in English, please.
Why?
Let's go ahead and just put a number 1 on this and number 2. And I printed it like this so that we would have all the space down below. I am going to do number 1, and you guys can just watch. Okay. First, I want to do is group my x's. I want to group my y's. And I want to just kick out the number. And when I kick it out, it becomes a positive. No. Next. You tell them. Next, I want to make it in a form that I can figure things out.
Five squared isn't 10.
This should look a lot like what to us?
It'd be 5 times what?
Completing the square. So I am only allowed to do what I just did because in a different color.
Doesn't work.
It's
It's 2 negative 5 is the
complete the
center.
square of the number, not complete
We
the
can
square.
figure out the
as
center
it
from
should.
here, which would be 2 negative 5.
Why do you guys ask questions about that?
So that's.
Five
So we get the
times
center, I just don't know how to get the radius. Oh, wait, no.
You're not doing 5 times 1. You're doing, maybe you are, I don't know. I can't think.
You scoot up.
Slow down, you move too fast. Gotta make the
You sing a lot around
most.
here.
Huh?
That's your Millwall.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not like them.
Raritan at freaking Park
Somebody in
Street.
my ear
always
was, I
sang
never
that.
got to that.
He tickled your ear?
No,
Excuse me, what, Ryan?
he took away my earbud and I never got them back. Wait,
Really?
Okay, easier.
You should probably go ask him for those.
that was a year ago.
He probably still has them.
He doesn't have them. What if he has them though?
Who knows? What if he does?
Okay, so I wrote this in a different color because this is just to help me realize that this here is the same as this right here. So I have to sneak in a what up above? I got to yes, I can sneak in a +4 there. I'm going to sneak in a +25 there, which means on the other side I need to sneak in those together, and a lot of people are saying 29 because they're just adding them for me. Now this does equal that. Now this whole thing does equal that. So I had to sneak those numbers back in. All this black work, I'm crossing it out just to say that I don't need it anymore. I guess I didn't need to cross it out. But.
Why couldn't you just do 2 squared and then put the 4 there, and then 5 squared and then put the 3 and 5 there and not have all that back?
So at one point in time, right, somebody said, hey, I just remember this formula. I like to show the work. If you put this 4 there and you're right, life's good. If you put a 5 there and you don't show work, you lose a ton of points.
So don't you just divide the second number by 2 and multiply it and square it?
And square it. Divide by 2, square it. That's the magic number that gets put on there. Okay? So now that I have it in this awesome form, I should be able to tell you that the radius is what?
729.
7 is the radius?
I didn't know that.
You tell me.
You add the 2 numbers.
Because you get 49 and then that's supposed to be squared.
That's the radius squared, right?
Oh,
So,
so that's 7.
Mark, make sense? Okay. And the center is what?
2 negative 5.
2, -5.
How did you get that?
The opposite of the 2 numbers in the problem.
In the problem.
Okay. That's the thing that kind of throws us off with circles a lot is we forget these are opposites and we forget that this is squared.
Is that the way it works in the first problem? Is that how we find those numbers?
In the first problem,
X to the center and the Y to the center?
yes,
Oh!
that's the center point.
Yeah,
That's
I know where you're getting.
basically, this is the same thing we just did. We're just doing it backwards. Okay, before they gave us this and we found the equation. So let's try this second one. So for number 2, I'm going to sneak it down here. What was our first step? Okay, so x squared minus 6.
Plus
Y squared
squared
plus 4y.
4y. And then equals -9.
So if you did this on the test, I would not fuss. If you just went x minus 3 and then said, oh, that means I'm adding a 9. So add a 9. And you said plus y. Oh, did that wrong. Excuse me. Y plus 2. And we sneak in a what here?
4.
And then you told me that means that side equals 4. I would not fuss if you had it right. Okay. Do we know how to find this 9 and 4? You put 6 here. I'm going to take off as many points as I can if you don't show work. So radius is 2, and the center is 3, negative 2.
You square root.
Remember when you were talking earlier and I was like, you got that? And you said yes.
How is it 3 negative 2?
Switch the sign.
Yeah, but if I was negative. Alright.
The 2 was a positive.
So up here in our notes, it should say radius is 2. Center ends up being 3, negative 2. Basically, everything we're doing with circles is about knowing the formula. Okay. Determine whether each point lies on the given circle. So let's start by writing the equation. Center of the circle is the origin with a radius of 2 square root of 5. Someone tell me what the equation is.
Wait, can you repeat that? Put it in and make sure it equals each other.
I'm just reading this. Circle with the center at the origin with radius 2 radical 5. Ryan, did you say you have an answer?
I don't have an answer, but
Okay.
I have an idea.
Okay.
X squared plus Y squared equals 2 radical 5 squared.
Yep. What would 2 radical 5 squared be?
4 times radical 5.
Close.
It would be 10. 10. What? Because you do 5 squared, which is 5 radical 5
20, right.
squared,
Is what?
which is 5.
Uh-huh. And then you
And you do 2 times 5.
No, you would also square 2.
Okay, there we go. I don't get that.
2 squared is 4. Radical 5 squared is 5.
I just
Matt, he's still a little confused, but
Does that work? Do you see that? So let's say it was 7 radical 2.
14.
28. Hold on, what? 28.
It's 49
Times
times 2. 49 times 2 is
Oh,
80.
80.
96.
98.
What the heck are you guys talking about?
English. That's what.
How can we figure out if this point is on the circle?
Plug it in and see if it equals 20.
Plug it in and see if it equals 20. Awesome. So negative 3 squared plus,
X minus.
You get 7 radical 2.
Don't you have to do X minus negative 2?
okay, this was written based on this information, which said the center was at the origin. So minus 0, minus 0. Okay.
It is. 9 plus 11.
So 9 plus 11 equals 20. So yes.
That's the easiest thing we got on here.
I want to point out something. It's yes. If this was on a quiz or a test, I would expect to see work. Okay.
Or it could be like,
What I just wrote down here. This I would expect to see.
Okay, but where's all that radical 7 stuff? We have plenty of
that would just,
Oh.
Yeah, That was just to show us what we were doing. Okay. B. Somebody tell me the equation for this circle. Maddie?
X minus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared
No.
Mm-hmm.
is equal to 27.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why is there something that says 6, 3?
That's
Is that
what
the
we
point
plug
it's asking us for?
That's what we have to plug in.
So
Okay.
then it's saying, will this work in this equation? In other words, will it be on the line?
So like 6 minus 2 now?
Mm-hmm. All right, so I did this on purpose. Ryan kept saying, square the parentheses, square the parentheses. I don't know how many times when I taught this before in Algebra 2 that kids forgot to put the squares on here, okay? Then all of a sudden you see a whole test or a whole quiz where they didn't put a square on there. How do I grade this how many points do I take off for this?
How many is this?
Okay?
This question be worth?
It's a 10-point question just to write that equation.
Take off like 6.
You take off like
Take
4 or
6
5.
out of 10.
You take off about
And
4
they
or
do it on the whole quiz.
Okay, probably about 4 or 5.
So it's crucial that it's on there. Okay, so just make sure we don't forget it.
Point out their mistakes and not their retest.
No, that sounds too nice.
I mean, that's
I might say square. Hello. Okay. 6 minus 2 squared plus 3 minus 4 squared equals 27. This is a question mark.
Wait, what if you forget the squares and you still get the right answer?
That's why showing work is important.
You know?
If you square a number, it's always going to be what?
Wait, don't you, on the other side, your radical proof?
No.
Can you move it down to
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
you don't, okay, I'm sorry. It's not on the circle, is it? No, it's not.
It's not.
This isn't gonna work because there's
17 equals 27.
17 does
Not equal 27, so it's
Yes.
Do you have a whole?
Yeah, I'll find one.
Well, but don't worry, not bad.
Okay, so if you know how that formula works, everything I'm going to ask you on this is about the formula. Looking at the group quiz, I want to point out something. They ask you to draw graphs. Okay, that implies you're going to be using what?
A compass.
A compass. Okay, I don't want to see sad circles. I want to see happy circles. Okay, what I would do is I would label my radius. If you're off by like 1/10 of the circle, that's fine, but I don't want to see sad circles. Okay, so let me say it this way. If I want to graph a circle and I don't know, say this is the center, okay, and the radius is 4, then I'm going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, and make a point. Then I'm going to take my compass and then I'm going to draw it with my compass. Okay?
Well, there's a very tiny circle and your compass is not being adequate.
Do the bet. If I can tell that a compass was used, I'll probably be okay. My point is 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we could do this where I just go out 4 each direction, but this would be sad face Mr. McConnell. So that was pretty awesome.
That's a good story.
What does it mean by standard in general form?
Huh?
What's standard in general form?
It's specific, standard is that.
Standard form is x minus. It's the equation out how we worked with it.
General.
General form means you FOIL this out.
Oh, so like when they gave us the whole like.
Yeah, this is standard general form.
I'm confused. So